Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and this is News and Week in Review, where we're going to dive into a variety of things from various pieces of news, the topic of the week, the games I played, the videos of the past week, and then occasionally some movie reviews, although not this week. I'm sure you're all heartbroken up inside about that. But it's been a busy week. There's Pax Unplugged. I've kind of started some things. I'm most of the way through the Scream series. I've been watching 1 through 6, and I'll give you a full coverage of that when I finally finish that. There's reasons. We'll live this week without movie reviews. But with that, let's go ahead and start us off, starting off with news, starting off with Wacky Wizard Games, which is a new line from Wise Wizard Games, basically bringing a family/kids line of games to the table. With Star Realms Academy coming out, we have Pack the Essentials and Caution Signs, the first 3 in the series. I like Star Realms, this one looks adorable, and Caution Signs, don't know anything about, but I'm intrigued about them. But either way, there's some more information of these games on the website. You can go ahead and see how to play them, all that stuff, but I'm definitely excited for a new line of games from them. They're joining a variety of companies who have their main line, but then a lighter line as well. We also have, speaking of lighter family lines, we have from KTBG, we have a Lairs being announced from them. They have a few games that they announced. They had Lairs, they have Capybaras, I believe, which is going to be a small box game set in the Maple Valley universe and all that. But basically, KTBG has a few new games coming to the table. Lairs specifically is a 2-player head-to-head, at least as of now, I believe it's 2-player. They might be looking to change or add to that. But effectively, it's a 2-player head-to-head game where you both craft a dungeon and then have each other run through each other's dungeon. Looks very fun. Didn't get a chance to play it myself, but I did get a chance to see it at PAX Unplugged. And then we have Burnt Island Games, with the little pop-up over here. We have Burnt Island Games with How to Save a World. This is going to be their parent company, or whatever it is. They're larger, more, I don't know, not necessarily larger. They're more standard strategy game company, but Burnt Island Games bringing How to Save a World to your table. This is one I got a chance to play at PAX Unplugged. Really enjoyed it. Only got to play half a game, so take that with a heavy grain of salt. But How to Save a World basically is going to be a tableau building Euro engine game in which you're trying to save a planet from being destroyed by an asteroid, either by putting up a planetary shield, by shooting the asteroid out of the sky, or by evacuating people from the planet and leaving everything to die. Then we have Tranquility the Ascent. This one over here is basically a campaign that has had a bunch of stumbling blocks along the way. Eventually they said, hey, we're not able to deliver. It is what it is. The company just doesn't have any money. They burned through everything. But they have Lucky Duck Games sweeping in to go ahead and save the day on this one. Lucky Duck Games is going to be delivering everyone's pledges with some compromises around what they can and can't do. So you're still going to be getting a Kickstarter deluxe copy to a degree, but not necessarily everything that you possibly paid for or hoping for. So it's a 90% happy story, happy ending, 95% happy ending. But that's going to be Lucky Duck Games jumping in to save this, and again, props to Lucky Duck for them taking over the game, and then for them honoring somebody else's missteps. Whenever you have a company coming in and giving you the games you paid for, they are effectively honoring someone else screwing up and making a mistake and not being able to balance what they need to balance, and they're like, hey, I know they kind of, messed that up, but we're going to start off in the red in order to make up for their mistake, and then, engender goodwill and all of that. So kudos to Lucky Duck for that. And then speaking of Lucky Duck, speaking of listening to the audience, engendering goodwill, all of those things, we have Food Chain Magnate over here. They got a lot of pushback on the Food Chain Magnate campaign because of the price points. I've talked about it in my week in review. I've talked about it in a dedicated video. But over here they have a new deluxe pledge. They've listened to the variety of people. They put together a new deluxe pledge for €179 for the base game and expansion in one, but compromising on some of the things you get. So you're not getting the the miniatures, for example, but you're getting the new art and all that stuff. I don't think you're getting double layer tiles. They go through a whole side-by-side comparison, but if you're interested in that, the Lucky Duck Games, they did give the people what they want to an extent. It does seem people are happy about having that extra option on the table. And then, we have that's what we have over here. Then we have over here an article on Amazon. Amazon introducing a virtual queue for Lorcana, the first time they've done a virtual queue for any game. Basically, in order to prevent any major issues going on with the launch, anticipating the popularity of Lorcana, there's basically, you can sign up. Right now, over here in this link, you can sign up to be added to the virtual queue so that you don't think of it as virtually storming the doors as opposed to just everyone going completely crazy and having things go wrong. So Amazon introducing that for the first time in history, which is cool to have the first time in history around a board game project. Although in other Amazon news, we have It's Too Late for Us. CoolStuffInc, who have been in the board game industry for a long time, they've been in the hobbyist industry for a long time, in the board game industry for a subset of the time, they kind of quietly left board games several months back. We talked about it on the channel, but they left board games. They're no longer in the board game business, and this article kind of talks about why and how, effectively blaming Amazon for the way they are competitive and the things they do to effectively be willing to take a loss to shut competitors out of the industry. They go through in the article, they talk about price fixing, about how CoolStuffInc would adjust the price by something to like 23-24, and then boom, Amazon would have it for 23-23 the next day already. They'd had that kind of, you know, I don't know if it's targeted at cool stuff. Either way, there's lawsuits going on right now in this article. It talks about the ongoing lawsuits as well. That's going to be everything going on with a little bit of a background as to why CoolStuffInc stopped, you know, selling board games, and then some news around the Amazon litigation currently pending. Over on Sovranti for the month of December, all the games are free to play. If you haven't played Sovranti yet, this is a good month to go ahead and give it a shot and see if it's a platform for you, because all the games are going to be free for the month of December. Additionally, if you want Platinum Access, I believe it's a 60-day code. If you use the code BGC Online, that's our code, BGC, Board Game Co., BGC Online, no spaces, no dashes, all uppercase, that'll give you 2 months free of Platinum Access to try out Sovranti and see if it's a platform that's right for you. And then lastly, in board game adjacent news, not even board game adjacent, in video game news, we have League of Geeks halting progress on some games and slowing down some of the development, and unfortunately letting half their staff go. The only real reason this is relevant to the board game space, we recently talked about, you know, Asmodee had some of their sub, you know, companies, not the Asmodee, the parent company of Asmodee had some of the sub companies, you know, dropping staff and having issues and closing studios and all that. And this is also the company behind Armello, which is, I guess, half a board game video game, will be turning into a board game later this year, I believe. But that's basically just kind of peripheral news about, you know, the state of the industry and other places still having issues. And so that's going to be your news and week in review. That's going to be the news part of your week in review. And with that, let's jump into our topic of the week, which is bad AI art on Facebook. This is a very specific topic of the week, and just I assume a bunch of you have been exposed to this. I assume many of you haven't. This is not a conversation around board games. This is barely a conversation around the nature of AI art, the good, the bad, the evils. A conversation I still want to have at some point properly on the channel, but haven't yet. I've talked to some people behind the scenes. I haven't made any real headway. Either way, this is not a deep dive into AI art, the goods, the evils, the perils. That's not the point of this conversation. Rather, this is about exactly what I said. Bad AI art on Facebook. This is just more of a rant than anything else, but it's just about the nature of my own personal views on AI art are conflicted. I recognize it as being something that will have drastic effects on society that we may not be able to ever recover from. I recognize the sheer potential of the impact AI art, and AI in general will have on everything. And then also there's a separate conversation to me as to, is it wrong in of itself, or are we just trying to say it's wrong because of the fear of what it will cause? Those are interesting and separate conversations that I have not fully come to terms with. What I have fully come to terms with is the fact that as a tool that is taking over things, just like crypto before, just like NFTs, just like so many different pieces of garbage out there, the way it's being utilized is utterly... There's a difference between using a tool in a good way and using a tool in a bad way. Even in a good way may have negative consequences. That's a separate conversation. But one of the things I've seen over the past several weeks is the idea that so many Facebook pages suggest these stupid AI art photos that are so clearly AI, do not present as AI, and then have people commenting on them with, wow, gorgeous, amazing, my heart sings. A whole bunch of completely random comments that seem bot generated, but I don't really know what's going on. Now, depending on who you are, this conversation is already going in one of two directions. Either you understand exactly what I'm talking about and you're like, oh my gosh, I've seen this too, it drives me nuts. Or you have no idea what I'm talking about, in which case I'm going to try to explain it to you. Because you'll have some sort of thing, let's just pick one example. You'll have a man standing next to a tree, has a carving in it, and the carving out of the tree, the carving out of the middle of the tree is this perfect photorealistic picture of his daughter, and it's like, and the caption will be like, my father built this with his bare hands, show him love so he knows he is appreciated. That will be like the kind of idea that you're going for. And then, sure enough, there'll be 40,000 comments in it showing him love and how much is appreciated, which all look like randomly generated comments that do not seem to be real in any sense. And these are a dime a dozen. The most recent one I've seen is a cruise ship made out of snow. And it's like, wow, look what I can do when you put your heart, mind, and time into it. No, it's an AI art photo, and it's so clearly an AI art photo, and the meshing of the two worlds in a way that doesn't really inspire anything. Do they look cool? In theory, but only if you're willing to completely disregard reality. They very much fall into the uncanny valley aspect of things, where it both looks real, but you also know it's not real at the same time. I think there is a good way to utilize AI artwork, and again, I recognize even as I say good way, there's a complicated conversation around and behind. I'm referring to, well, I'm kind of skipping the conversation, frankly. But when I say it in a good way, I mean that For instance, just to give you, again, type of AI art that I appreciate and don't appreciate on Facebook, you know, when you have that photorealistic fake thing that's obviously not real but looks real, hate that. Versus when you sit there and say, oh my gosh, look at these 15 photos of if, you know, the cast of the Avengers were in Harry Potter. And then they take something that's clearly fake, they call it out as fake, and they use AI art to generate a bunch of cool-looking photos with some dynamic on those things. You know, oh my gosh, look at these Marvel heroes fighting these DC heroes, but with, you know, more costumes from the 1900s or whatever it is. That kind of thing where it's not in any way trying to pretend they're real, but it's trying to utilize something that is fake and then just try to say, hey, here's a new way of presenting something that's fake. That, to me, is a, again, good use of AI art in the sense that it gives you something cool to look at, that you're not sitting there with this weird, uncanny valley concept of things going on. And so this is just a rant. That's all it is. It's just a rant. My life is not overly negatively affected. It's just a minor inconvenience. Every time I see one of those photos that just look uncanny valley, I immediately go ahead and block the page offhand. I would like Facebook to learn as quickly as possible that I'm not interested in that kind of thing on my page. Not of any moral sense, so much as just a hot garbage sense. Like, I understand what they're going for, but hot garbage. And the bot comments. The bot comments is the thing that I do not understand at all, and I'm curious if you have any answers on that. Like, I'm sure it's a bots to kind of generate, you know, engagement and all that, but I don't know. It just feels so off, so fake, and I don't know what kind of progress they're making. But hey, if it makes someone happy, then go ahead and do it, I guess. So, that's it. AI art on Facebook. It's getting kind of stupid, and I guess that's what we get for embracing technology that is kind of all over the place and crazy. So, yeah, there's consequences, apparently. Anyways, with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to the weekend review, starting off with the games I played. As usual, these are going to cover a few of the many games I played, usually focusing on those that I'm not as sure if there will or won't be a review, starting off with Crosstalk. Crosstalk, coming to you from Navu Games, is a party game in which you're going to be giving clues, but your opposing team guesses first. So there's a shared concept. The concept might be, I don't know, let's go with board game, okay? Now, let's be more specific. The concept might be... let's use an actual one. Let's use an actual one. An actual one would be Anne Frank, okay? So Anne Frank was an actual word utilized as a, you know, one of these clues. And then you have two clue givers who are trying to give clues to their team. The problem is you're going to give a clue, and then it has to be one word, but the opposing team guesses first. So whatever clue you give, the opposing team is going to guess first. So maybe I sit there and I say, I don't know, attic. The opposing team has to go ahead and guess first, and they might guess, who knows, they might guess house. Okay, fine. Well, then the other team goes ahead and gives a clue, and their clue might be diary. The problem with that is that's a great clue, except for one small problem, because now you have attic and diary, but the other team now has those clues first, and they guess first. And the hook there is the fact that you have a secret clue that is kind of an anchor clue that you give to your team that no one else sees before the thing begins, and that kind of gives you leeway to play around that clue in a way that your clue is not obvious in and of itself, but it might be more obvious in combination with the other clues. So for example, if you gave attic as the secret clue, and you gave girl as the public clue, well, girl on its own has like such a wide breadth of how many possible things it could attach to. But girl and attic are already much more limited. That's the core idea of Crosstalk. And the short version, having played like, I don't know, 8 or 9 rounds of it, is it's interesting. Sometimes it works, sometimes it gives you a good experience, other times it gives you like a completely immediately guessing the other person's clue experience. I've had fun with it. I don't know if I think it's a great game, but I would say that I would happily pull it out and play it. Whenever somebody wants to play this as a party game, I would happily play Crosstalk. I enjoyed it. I just don't know if I'd pick it over things like Decrypto or Codenames or Monikers. I think Monikers will give me more chaos and Decrypto will give me more strategy, and Crosstalk kind of falls into a jack of all trades, master of none kind of situation. Then there's Buy the Vote, a game about buying the vote. You're going to be given money every single round. You're going to use that money to buy the various states, and every single round more and more states are in play in order for you to try to bid on. This is more of a indie game, so to speak. It's not a big box availability by any means. It's at a convention, but the idea of Buy the Vote is just trying to spend money, and you are going to spend your money simultaneously, then reveal your player screens, and then figure out who got which state, effectively, which are worth a certain number of votes, and then eventually you have a president and a vice president and all that stuff. You're just, across like 9 rounds of play, I think it is, you're just consistently spending more and more money to buy various states' votes. The whole entire game comes down to the mind games of the fact that sometimes in play you have 27 electoral votes in play, and other times you have 3, and so obviously you're all going for the 27, but that means you get away with spending a little bit more on the 3s and being able to get what you want if you don't go for everything big. So there's a mind game of what all the players at the table are going to be doing in this game. And ultimately, it works to give you chaotic, crazy mind games. But for me, it's a little bit too much. The entire game is 9 rounds straight, 45 minutes straight of just mind games, mind games, mind games, mind games. Maybe not 45 minutes, maybe half an hour. Half an hour of mind games, mind games, mind games. I thought it was way too chaotic, but I think it's the kind of game I like if you isolate it to a much smaller amount of it, as opposed to this game was just, just consistently just playing those games. And especially with the people I'm playing with, usually we fall into this category of, I think you'll do that, so I'll do this, but then I know you think that I'll do that, so I'll do this instead, and you go back and forth forever, which works well. It's smaller player counts, so smaller play times, but it doesn't work as well when the entire game is that mechanic. And the last game is going to be Compile. Compile is an upcoming prototype from Greater Than Games. I believe it's going straight to retail. It might go to crowdfunding, I'm not sure. But Compile is basically a 2-player head-to-head game where you draft a certain number of decks, and you use those decks in order to build your own pools, and then you're going to go ahead and play those cards to try to get more numbers in your row before your opponent, but there's tons of abilities in play. The entire game comes down to the abilities that you're going to combine from the various decks you've chosen, being able to utilize those abilities to mess with your opponent's side, to augment your side, to trade cards back and forth. It's a fun little 2-player head-to-head game, kind of give me reminiscent vibes of, I'm going to blank in it, from Capstone Games, 2-player, I want to say it starts with an R. It's a 2-player head-to-head game from Capstone Games that has you drafting decks of cards and then fighting 2-player head-to-head. Someone in the comments already has this. I forgot what it is. Either way, that's Compile. I enjoyed it. It's a little chaotic. I think it's the kind of game that I enjoy, not the kind of game I need to keep. And that's going to be our games I played, which means we dive into the week in review. The videos of the week, starting off with this past Saturday, where I reviewed Kiri Ai the Duel from Lucky Duck Games. I enjoy it. Speaking of mind games, that very much has that wine in front of me mind game situation. I enjoy it. I think it's a fun time. And because it's a short game, it works well for me. Give it a 3.5 out of 5. I think it's good. I don't think it's a game that'll stick around forever for me, but for right now, I'm more than happy to keep it around and keep playing it. Later on Saturday, I reviewed Epic 7 Rise. Gave that a 1.5 out of 5. My lowest rating that I've given publicly to a game is like behind the scenes. If I just don't give a game time, I've rated lower than that. But I think Epic 7 has got to my lowest rating from any game. There were just too many issues across the board, and I am forgiving. Like, I remember, I think in the review I compared it to I compared my review to this to Horizon Zero Dawn, because both of them I had complained about the semi-co-op. The difference is Horizon Zero Dawn gave me a fun game to dive into, and then some aspects I had to power through. Versus Epic 7 was just problem after problem after problem, starting with a bad rulebook, heading to bad components, moving into bad gameplay. There were small sub-redeeming aspects of it, but the entire game as a package deal just did not work for me. I did not feel good about that review. I'm glad that I don't give reviews that are that negative that often, but once in a while they will pop up. So that's going to be Epic 7 Rise. Then later, we had on Sunday, we had 10 stocking stuffer games. This is me just going through a bunch of small box, affordable games for whatever holiday gifts you want to give. A bunch of recommendations in there. There's so many great small box games. For me, one of my highlights for this past year has been For Northwood. I really enjoyed that one a lot, and that was one of those 10 games. There's 9 others, though, to watch in the video. Then we had on Monday. We had 10 games I should not have gone all in on. This is a video, a counterpart to the video I did maybe 2-3 weeks ago of 10 games I don't have any regrets about going all in that I totally do use the content for. This is the counterpoint to that. This was, wasn't 10 games, it was 14 games. 14 games I should not have gone all in on. I just have a conversation around which types of all-ins work for me and which types of all-ins do not work for me, in case you're interested in seeing for yourself where those things lie. On Tuesday, we had a review for Sea of Thieves from Steamforged Games. Gave that a 3.5 out of 5. I like it. I overall enjoy it. Some complaints about it. Ultimately, it's going to be a sandbox game that I still don't think is going to rival Zyre, so I think Zyre Legend of River System is going to stick around for me, and I think Sea of Thieves will not. Later on Tuesday, we had Too Many Cooks. Too Many Cooks is coming to you from Good Against Publishing. It's a fast-paced cooperative game of trying to, through silent communication, being able to align your goals. Very much plays off the concept of Decorum. Again, a fun, simple game. I definitely enjoy it. I don't think it's a keeper. I think that, like Decorum before it, I will hold on to it. I will play it a bunch of times, and eventually it'll move on. Then we have later on Tuesday, I gave that a 3.5 out of 5 as well. Later on Tuesday, we had a Party Panda Pirates preview. This is a preview of Party Panda Pirates over on crowdfunding. This is a paid preview. Go ahead and check that out. It's basically a Mario Party style gameplay. Then later on Wednesday, we had 6 small box game reviews. That was going to be just basically exactly what it sounds like. It's 6 small box game reviews, going over a bunch of small games and just, my short, quick opinions on those games. This is a format you'll see here and there on the channel because I just, eventually it's going to happen because lots of the small box games just aren't the amount of time, effort, and energy to give everything its own dedicated review is a lot, and so lots of times I bundle up smaller, lower interest games into singular reviews, and this is one of, well, a bunch more coming, and a bunch more in the past. Later on Wednesday, we had a live Q&A with Devin and Meg, going through the, going through a bit of a PAX Unplugged recap, as well as a mini game show. This weekly live was actually supposed to be a conversation around the games I shouldn't have backed, and the games I shouldn't have gone all in on, and the games I should have gone all in on. That was what it was supposed to be, and I'm realizing that I completely forgot that up until this moment in time. So maybe next week we'll do that live Q&A. Maybe. I don't know yet. We'll find out. Then later on Wednesday, we had a Divinity Original Sin preview. This is going over Divinity Original Sin, giving you a preview of that game as well. There are already 2 gameplays under our belts, and there may be more. We'll see on that one, but that's going to be Divinity Original Sin. Then we had on Thursday. We had a Games Leaving the Collection video. Exactly what it sounds like. Games Leaving the Collection video for the month of October. Just going through, or the month of November. I don't really know what I called them anymore, but it's always the month that left and the month we're in. I think I called it for November, because I lost track once, and then I just stuck with it. But either way, Games Leaving the Collection for the month of November. The big one for the comments in general, and also for me, was Figure of Dracula, because that's been in my collection for like 5 years, always hoping to get it played, and eventually 5 years into it, I've given up, and I've decided it's just not happening. I have the best of intent, but ultimately I pick other games over it. So that's going to be our Games Leaving the Collection video. Then on Friday, that was Thursday, Friday we had a PAX Unplugged haul video. Some games go out, some games come back in, and that's the PAX Unplugged video. In general, games are constantly in rotation. There's always some games that stick. There's going to be some games that stick for like 6 months, some games that stick for a year, and some games that just stick around for like 5-10 years or whatever it is. But that's because all the other games are going away constantly on a regular basis, and so there's room for those games. In fact, from the games on the table, I think these are all PAX Unplugged games, but we'll talk more about those at the end of the video. And that brings us to today. Today we have a review for Quality going up, as well as a gameplay for Nemesis Retaliation. Again, this is a sponsored gameplay for Nemesis Retaliation. Played around with some things. There's some sound issues. I think it's a concept we can do better. It's a concept we've seen before, but either way, it's going to be a Nemesis Retaliation gameplay, and that's going up later today. And then for next week we have a bunch of things. We're going to have a State of the Channel video going up. We're also going to have 20 late pledges. Instead of our Monday 2 back and not to back, we're going to have a late pledge recap instead, if you want to check that out. Maybe next week we'll have a 2 back and not to back. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll see where things are. But either way, that's going to be what we have this coming week. Maybe we'll have it this week. I don't know. We'll figure things out. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it all together. But anyways, that's going to be videos going up on Monday. And then past that, as far as the games on the table, we have a few games on the table. We have Reality Shift, which I hope to play with my kids this week. We have Time Division, which I might be being too ambitious with how much I think I want to get played, but I would love to get Time Division played. I'd also love to get World Wonders played, as well as Vienna. All of these games are completely new to me. I've played La Isla, which this is based on, but past that, these I've seen them play to a degree. I think they'll be easy enough to dive into. Playing all 4 might be ambitious, but I'm going to see what I can get done. In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.